great race of the 80s, where in one 7-hour day, the finest endurance athletes in the world, both men and women, will try to put together the 3 disciplines and capture triathlon's world championship. It begins in the waters of the Mediterranean, as the 700 strong are called upon to show their mettle in the 2-mile swim. The wetsuits and goggles are traded for helmets and racing bikes for the 70-mile climb into the Maritime Alps, where today quaint church villages witness an intensity that breeds danger. But the war of attrition has only begun. Now for the experts, those fortunate and those swift, 20 miles in the scorching afternoon sun. It's the relentless pursuit of a crown never worn without first suffering the sting served up on this torturous course. How inviting are the shores of the Côte d'Azur. How beautiful this setting in the French Riviera for this, the World Triathlon Championships. Hello everyone, I'm John Tesh, and welcome to Nice for the World Triathlon Championships. In its early years, this sport was recognized as and raced as really nothing more than a survival of the fittest. But the race today is an example of how the sport has evolved over the years. It's more competitive and certainly more organized. The distances for swimming, cycling, and running are such that no one specialist is really favored. So the winner today will truly be recognized as the world champion. That's one of the reasons why all the top men and women from 20 countries are competing here today. Another is that it's the richest triathlon purse in the world. You're looking here at the transition area where the athletes are completing their final preparations, which includes getting their numbers, as defending champion Mark Allen receives his number 1. The 27-year-old has won this race all 3 years it's been held, but today faces the most accomplished field of triathletes ever put together.
You know, I think internationally that this is the World Championship. It has all the top Europeans, it has all the top Americans. The Ironman is a little more skewed towards having Americans. It's more difficult for the top Europeans to get over there. Any athlete who has a chance or would have a chance of winning this race is here.
And that includes Rob Burrell, the 1985 European champion. Burrell is a full-time biologist for the Dutch government. He's only been competing for a year, but finished 4th in last year's Ironman. The acknowledged Ironman, of course, is American Dave Scott, who has won that race 4 times, but is already having trouble this morning with a damaged rear wheel even before the race is underway. And from the looks of it, he will have to find a replacement wheel rather quickly. The man who tackles more races and more difficult races than anyone in the world is another American, Scott Molina, who will figure to be out in front giving everyone headaches. The water's off the coast of Nice, a little early and chilly for sunbathing, 65 degrees. But unlike last year, the water temperature should not be a problem. As we get set for the start now, let's get a word from my colleague, Olympic gold medalist John Neighbor.
At the sound of the gun, friends are going to become like strangers, as it's every man for himself. An early lead transforms into a substantial advantage, and being stuck in the middle of the pack is rather dangerous. With all these arms flailing and legs thrashing, you can get hurt out there. In fact, the organizing committee's hired 3 frogmen standing by in case of a needed rescue. Now, for the swimmers who get out ahead of the pack, their goal is to begin drafting. This is finding yourself immediately behind a swimmer in front and using them for direction, and in fact, you may even find yourself being pulled along by their weight.
And here's a picture that always makes you look twice. 700 athletes towing a starting line that points them out to sea. The countdown in French, and the World Championship is underway.
The organizing committee planned to have all the athletes start from a stretch of beach 20 yards wide, but as you can see, they've spread themselves out over a full 100 yards, giving a clear advantage to the swimmers on the left of the screen there. They have the shortest path to the first turn, and by some strange coincidence, most of the pre-race favorites are in their prime position right now.
The swim course is a 2-mile loop, which is marked by buoys. The early leaders have already separated themselves from the rest of the swimmers. And in the group of leaders is the Ironman Dave Scott, who is certainly one of the most versatile athletes out here, and proves he can slug it out with the rest of the top swimmers.
Notice he's got a very strong turn. He swims accustomed to choppier water, the rough water swims. And although he looks a little bit sloppy above the surface, underwater he's got a very efficient stroke. Here, circumnavigating the globe, there passing in the center is Charlie Graves. He's a lifeguard and the swimming specialist. He takes pride in getting out of the water first. He's got a beautifully smooth stroke, keeping everything as close to the surface of the water as he can. He swam this course yesterday trying to determine his line of attack, and so he doesn't need to follow another swimmer. Although the pack is thinned out nicely, they're still taking great advantage in the direction that Charlie Graves has established towards the turnaround buoy. In hot pursuit, here on the bottom of the screen is Yves Cordier, the local favorite. He lives here in Nice. And on top in the pink wetsuit is Scott Molina, the man everybody fears and most chose as the pre-race favorite. Now fighting it out for fourth position is Mark Allen in the wetsuit and Dave Scott on the near side of the screen. They're trying to struggle to keep that line behind Molina where the going is a lot easier. Allen probably has the advantage by wearing this wetsuit because it wards off the cold and it keeps him more buoyant. But Dave Scott is more of a purist. He's not a wetsuit kind of guy. No high-tech equipment for him. He just likes to slug it out. And at 31 years of age, this four-time Ironman champion doesn't want to betray weakness.
I like to be in the lead. I like people to worry about Dave Scott. I like to have a look at the back of my head. I don't like to look at theirs. If I'm on the lead, they can't see my expression. I'm hurting as bad as they are, but they don't know it.
The current women's leader is 28-year-old American Linda Buchanan, who swam at the University of California at San Diego, where she was a two-time All-American. Now, a look behind the leaders gives you an idea again of one of the advantages of being way out front. About 3 minutes behind Linda Buchanan is Erin Baker of Auckland, New Zealand. The swim is not her strong suit, but she has great talent in the bike and run. Those talents are exceeded only by her desire, a desire we found in this interview.
I want to be world champion. I mean, I want that as much as I've ever wanted anything. And I feel that you could say it this year from this race because of the caliber of the people competing. I don't know if you know, but I can't get into the States, so I want to win this race. You know, I can't go to Hawaii or anywhere else. So to me, this is where all the people are, and this is the time that I can prove what I'm, capable of.
Baker was denied a visa by the United States government after she was arrested and convicted in New Zealand in an anti-apartheid demonstration. She and two friends set off a smoke bomb which qualified them as terrorists in the eyes of U.S. officials. Baker denies the whole thing, but the ruling still stands. For now, anyway, Erin Baker is here in Nice, France, with the Americans and the best of the rest. The personal private battles now being waged in the water as the scope of the arena becomes visible from above. We'll be back. The white streams in the middle of your screen are the lead swimmers here in Nice as they approach the shore now. When they reach land, they will begin the transition onto the bike. And at this moment, John Neighbor, American Charlie Graves leads them all, but all of the top Americans are right there with him.
You know, John, this is really unusual for so many people to be so close to the leader. Graves is used to getting out way ahead. Here he is on the left of the screen still with a beautiful, flawless stroke as he swims into the surf line. He's going to have to stand up on sharp pebbles and jog up a flight of stairs to the transition area. It's a real difficult transition period. Now here's some of the other leaders, Dave Scott and Scott Molina in the wetsuit. You know, they've just come from a difficult swim, and he's got to hustle through the transition area. Molina behind him now has to pay the price for the advantage of wearing the wetsuit during the swim. He's got to slowly unzip it from behind, and Mark Allen, who enjoyed the wetsuit earlier, also has to get rid of this now obsolete equipment like caps and goggles. And it's no easy feat getting out of a wetsuit, even if the water is 71 degrees warm.
There he is, Charlie Graves. You will almost always see him out of the water first. He was an All-American swimmer at Iowa State, but is not as good a cyclist or runner as the rest. So he'll get to his bike first.
You know, it looks like Molina's taking his time. I think that's a reflection of his confidence in the upcoming bike and running portions. He's going to leave the equipment on the side, and off he goes.
Here's Dave Scott's transition. Scott's fiancée, Anna Pettis, went and got him a new rear wheel to replace the damaged one that somehow became bent overnight. The athletes placed their bikes here overnight for safety inspection. Sometime between now and then, a gremlin got to his back wheel. Scott has one of the best transitions in this sport.
This is Linda Buchanan. She's the lead woman. She's been leading almost since the start of the race. A very strong distance swimmer, and looking like her stroke is still very, very strong coming into this finish line.
Changing your clothes at high speed in front of a worldwide television audience. Now Mark Allen to the right, and Scott Molina on the left have joined Dave Scott.
Now, somewhere in the last 200 yards of the race, Frédéric Villeneuve from France has passed Linda Buchanan, and I don't care how close to the leader you are, there's no joy in coming in second.
Charlie Graves is first out on the bike. Close behind, Dave Scott. Defending champion Mark Allen and Scott Molina still in the transition area. Mark Allen puts the finishing touches on his transition with an aerodynamic pointy plastic helmet. And so both he and Scott Molina are on their way out. Out onto the Promenade des Anglais here in Nice, and soon headed for the mountains and that 70-mile bike ride. Back in the transition, here is Linda Buchanan wrapping up her transition. And another pre-race favorite, New Zealand's Aaron Baker, is better than 3 minutes behind Linda Buchanan. For now, Charlie Graves pedals in the lead. Dave Scott is close behind. The early part of the bike is flat, and the leaders here can all see each other, and Dave Scott begins to move on Graves, whose small lead in the swim quickly evaporates. Behind them both, Scott Molina. Dave Scott now takes over the lead from Charlie Graves. Based on past experiences, he will no longer be worried about Graves, but about this man, Scott Molina. He is considered to be the strongest cyclist in the race. And here, he makes his move on Graves, who will now continue to pedal in third place. Our leader, Dave Scott. And Scott Molina, whose training buddies call the Terminator, here has an unspoken command for Dave Scott. Move back into second place. Hairpin turns and treacherous downhills on the way for the leaders and those who will follow. The course through the Maritime Alps is considered to be the most technical of any triathlon in the world. For more, here's U.S. Pro Cycling champion Eric Heiden, who rode the course yesterday.
The cycling portion of a triathlon is usually run on a relatively flat course, which means all you really have to do is just put your head down and pound away. This course, however, well, you could probably find this in the legendary Tour de France. It requires a lot of skill. There's some good climbs, which means you have to have a lot of upper body strength. It also requires a lot of concentration, which can sometimes be hard at the end of the race. But one mistake, and it may be your last.
They are called the Village Perché, or perched villages high atop these Alps by the sea. Getting here by car is a frightening adventure. Today, they line the course for the bike. Defending champion Mark Allen fueling his body with liquids and wearing that aerodynamic helmet against the wind resistance. He is 50 seconds behind leader Scott Molina. The switchbacks along the cliffs make it impossible to see more than 50 feet ahead. Allen cannot see Scott Molina. Between the two is Dave Scott, who has seen Molina and is chasing with a vengeance. Dave Scott is only 10 seconds behind.
His peers have branded him the Terminator because of his sheer determination and relentless drive. And today, Scott Molina won't tolerate anybody standing in his way.
Dave Scott still with designs on the lead.
This looks less like a race and more like a personal battle, which could result in both of these guys blowing up or running out of gas before they reach the end.
The duel between Molina in front and Ironman Dave Scott behind. And the two almost swallowed up by all that surrounds their tiny alpine path. Dave Scott makes his bid for the lead.
John, John, Molina is not a happy man, and I wouldn't be either. Dave Scott has just shown why he has been so consistently successful. He knew by maintaining a constant pace he could eventually catch Molina. And Molina attacks and seems more angry than determined as he immediately takes the lead again. To him, it's as much a matter of pride as it is strategy to be in the lead. He has openly claimed that he would dominate the bike course. You have to wonder, does he have the stamina to live up to such a bold prediction? And by working so hard to stay in first, will he have the energy to win a race that won't end for another 4 hours? Molina, however, is not unprepared. He has trained at altitude in Boulder, Colorado with some of America's finest cyclists, and he has even rented a house in the mountains of Nice and has spent 2 weeks living and training in these hills just for this World Championship. Molina maintains a smooth, powerful cadence up the first climb. If he can keep this up, there's no reason why he can't stay ahead for good.
Dave Scott has touched a nerve, which has only launched the Terminator further into the lead.
Here is Scott Molina as he begins the tricky descents that make this course unique. He's able to navigate the narrow mountain roads like the accomplished cyclist he claims to be. And he looks the part as well. Down on his handlebars with teardrop helmet, skin-tight suit, and space-age goggles, Molina has become an aerodynamic projectile. In contrast, Dave Scott is a believer in the old school. He looks like he just stepped off a volleyball court with loose tank top and gym shorts flailing in the wind. He could be out for a Sunday ride. And a man who has probably had many Sunday rides in these hills is local favorite Yves Cordier. The 21-year-old Paris native now lives and trains in Nice. He is France's most accomplished triathlete. Oddly enough, he is not intimidated by Ironman Dave Scott. Scott blew Cordier away last year on the bike course. Right now, Cordier is hungry to take revenge and take over second place. In the meantime, Mark Allen has dropped to fifth. The three-time Nice champion is renowned for his mental toughness. He resists the temptation to chase the leaders because he knows the champion will be the man who paces himself most evenly in the end. Donning new wave booties, Scott Tinley is anxious to catch the leaders. In his haste to get to the front, he has already crashed twice and now fuels up for the rest of the race. His technique is clearly not textbook, but by relying on sheer strength, he has been able to stay near the leaders.
Dave Scott is for the moment out of this race with a flat tire. Now the rules say you are not allowed any outside support. And if Dave Scott is in fact carrying a spare, he'll have to put it on himself. As Frenchman Cordier moves into second place, it looks like Dave will not change that tire. So the Ironman's day is probably over. Scott Molina, he continues to press on in the lead. His nearest challenger is more than 4 minutes behind. And here comes Mark Allen, who will also pass Scott by the side of the road.
I have to imagine the reason Dave Scott did not put on a spare, John, was because you have to glue a spare tire onto the rim, and that would take a good 5 minutes. Otherwise, you risk having the tire come off on a steep descent and crashing. For my money, it's the safe decision.
So the standings, with 25 miles left on the bike, with Dave Scott officially abandoning this race. Molina, Cordier, Tinley, Allen, and Rob Burrell.
Next year. Thanks. Bye. I think that's one of the stupidest things about this sport, is that it's you got to depend on your own mechanical skill to get by. And a course like this that's really rugged, you get a flat tire. I just didn't want to take a chance and roll on a tire and have it come off on one of these turns. I'm a young guy.
Back up front, local hero Yves Cordier is still in second place. But the race to chase down Scott Molina has drawn another American, Scott Tinley, closer to this Frenchman. Tinley speaks no French and Cordier little English. But the message here appears to be, hey Yves, you might want to try one of these. 5 minutes, 30 seconds back is the 1985 European champion Rob Burrell, and he has joined Mark Allen. The two cannot work together by drafting each other. If Molina is to be stopped, it will be an individual effort.
Speeding on like a madman, Molina attempts to make himself as aerodynamic as possible down the last hill. He leans up over the front wheel, something only the most confident cyclists will do. Riders feel this increases their speed on the descent, but by placing all their weight perilously over the front wheel, the light racing machines become very unstable, and at 50 miles per hour, a 21-pound bicycle can be a very dangerous vehicle.
Allen in red and the Dutchman Burrell in front of him have now also caught Yves Cordier. Now the three go off in search of Tinley in second, and the man who controls this race from first place. Scott Molina now seems more concerned today with racing his watch than with anyone else pedaling a racing bike. But are the four chasing behind merely hanging on during these hair-raising descents, waiting for that 20-mile run to make a move? We'll be back a bit later on to bring you the exciting conclusion of the bike segment and the 20-mile run that will decide the world champion. Stay with us. Welcome back to the World Triathlon Championships from Nice, France. American Scott Molina, who has led this race almost since its very beginning, is approaching the transition area here in the city of Nice. He has already completed a 2-mile swim. The bike segment was 70 miles long, and his cycling skills have him 5.5 minutes ahead of his nearest challenger. But now comes the final leg, this 20-mile run. It's 10 miles out and 10 back, when this transition area will become the finish line for it all. Molina's closest competition comes from Dutchman Rob Burrell. He is the 1985 European Triathlon champion. 1 minute behind him are Americans Mark Allen and Scott Tinley, who, although may have a conversation together, cannot draft or work for one another. Both these men, Tinley and Allen, are excellent runners. And Allen is the 3-time world champion. The waters of the Mediterranean, where the swim began early this morning, and the Maritime Alps, the site of what has been an extremely technical and at times dangerous bike course. Those who were not aware of that, well, they found out the hard way. Most triathlons offer a basic up and down, pedal as hard as you can and you'll make it bike course. But this course, with the sharp turns and severe downhills, is typically European, and it's taken its toll, although not seriously, on the unskilled and the unlucky.
Il allait à droite, j'ai vu, il s'est pas arrêté. Alors j'allais à gauche, je me suis dit, il va se boiter sur la droite.
Bougez les jambes là.
Defending champion Colleen Cannon escaped mishap and is now in the lead of this race.
Pretty scary up there.
Colleen spent most of the bike 1 minute behind New Zealand's Erin Baker. But Baker flatted and fell into second, and you can see her here with that punctured tire tucked into her triathlon suit. Baker has never before raced against the top American women. But even with that flat, she's moved ever closer to Colleen Cannon. As we take a look at the women's standings, Baker's only 50 seconds behind. A report now on the men's race. Here's world-class miler Craig Masbach.
Scott Molina was excellent in the transition area, and as we see him here, still early in the run, he's trying to take advantage of that lead he built up in the cycling portion. He's been competing for almost 4 hours now, but he's still feeling out his legs. He competed for 4 hours swimming, biking, but now he's supporting his body weight for the first time. He wants to press his advantage here, make those behind him, Rob Burrell and Mark Allen, who are good runners and have the ability to catch him, press early and try to go after him. Some people call Rob Burrell the European Terminator, but he's got to make up about 15 seconds a mile to catch Molina. He ran a good marathon last April, but he told me he's still learning how to run. And there's a big advantage to running together, as we see Allen and Tinley now sharing third place. They'll be like teammates until they catch up. Allen said before the race that if he was within a few minutes of the lead at the start of the run, he'd win. He should know, 2 years ago he came from behind on the run to beat this man, Scott Molina. But since then, Molina has become a KG frontrunner, and he's smart to slow down and drink early on the run. He's had trouble with the heat in the past. And here you see the advantage of working together. Tinley and Allen are running well under 6 minutes per mile and have already caught Burrell. And look at this move by Tinley.
He's spurting right past Burrell, which will discourage the Dutch runner. And he's using Burrell to put some distance between himself and Allen.
The view of the battle along the shores of the French Riviera as the men trying to claim a world title are early into the run. It's still anyone's race. The shadows thrown by the peaks in the Alps by the sea grow longer. The tiny perched villages in their care now appear quiet and peaceful. Beneath them, the waters of the Mediterranean reflect the glow of an afternoon sun that beats down upon a man with a world championship within his grasp. Behind him, three men whose only mission is to chase him, pass him, and take from him a victory of which he has dreamt through long hours of training. It was only 3 years ago that Scott Molina was holding down 3 jobs, supporting a wife and child, and still training to race in triathlons. He has never won a world title, and now it's as close as it could possibly be. The 3 behind are now working together and slowly scratching away at the time behind. The man who was the Terminator in the mountains, a man full of confidence, a man who now jogs when he should be running. In the women's race in the transition area is Colleen Cannon first.
Last year, she came from behind on the run to win this race, but she's just coming back from a hamstring injury and has missed a lot of training. And she'll get no sympathy from this woman. Erin Baker doesn't respect any of her opponents and wants to prove herself in her first confrontation with the Americans. This will make them appreciate me, she said. The Americans don't know much about Baker, but Colleen Cannon knows that if the rumors are true, a 50-second lead won't be much protection.
So the women's race will continue on foot, while for the men, Scott Molina has reached the halfway turnaround point in the 20-mile run.
I think Molina did well to keep the lead up until the turnaround point. He's got 10 miles to go. He should try to push the pace a little and at least try to look good so that when he crosses paths with the others, they'll be discouraged.
But if they see him like this, it'll only make them stronger.
These guys aren't stopping for water. They're running with purpose, helping each other chase the man in front.
On his left, the 3 heading for the turnaround points. He checks his watch, and now he must know that his lead has been eroded. have now surged to leave Burrell behind. Century-old alpine towns where the battle today was on bicycles. Now, it continues on foot in the shadows of 20th century architecture along the French Riviera. Like Scott Molina for the men, women's leader Colleen Cannon is being chased down, and the devil behind is New Zealander Erin Baker. Since the bike, Linda Buchanan has made up more than 3 minutes and is within striking distance of both of those women.
2 years ago, she came from behind on the run to win this race, but she's been out with stress fractures and hasn't run as far as 20 miles since she won here. Cannon is struggling now. But look at Erin Baker. I love to race, she said. I'll devastate the other woman, she said. That's not getting past, that's getting blown away.
Erin Baker has perhaps more to prove here than anyone. She was refused admission into the U.S. because of her anti-apartheid demonstrations in New Zealand. This is her first meeting with the top Americans, and she wants this world title more than anything. Behind, and Colleen Cannon is about to succumb to yet another pass. And this time it comes from Linda Buchanan. You got to remember, these two Americans are supposed to be the top 2 triathletes in the world, but at this point, they don't look like they're anywhere near the class of Erin Baker. The men and the women have all been out here almost 6 hours. First the 2-mile swim, the 70-mile bike, and now for the men, the closing moments of the 20-mile run.
Who will make the first move? I think Tenley on the right has better leg speed, but Allen's the guy to fear. Look at him. He has the killer instinct and a special ability to concentrate.
Molina's claims on the world title are now history as he slips further behind. At one point, this man was almost 6 minutes ahead.
Allen's been surging since they passed Molina. Like a boxer working the body, he's been softening Tenley up. How quickly he can break away. One lapse in concentration and effort, and Tenley falls behind. That kind of move this late in the race makes victory almost a certainty. Tenley is running like a beaten man. This is not the form of a runner who's going to catch Mark Allen before he reaches the finish.
And there's the unofficial escort that is a staple in this event. Hundreds of spectators on motorbikes escorting their leader into Nice. Allen can see the road ahead. Tenley watches those following Allen. Times previously, Mark Allen has drawn these finish line cheers here in Nice. And now he runs the deafening corridor one more time.
Tenley now, and he's going to have to settle for second place. He'll be tough on himself, but Allen's unbeatable here. It's amazing these guys can go head-to-head for 6 hours and still be so close together at the finish.
Congratulations. What an amazing push there in the last part of the run.
I didn't think we were going to catch Molina. He was 7 minutes ahead.
You know, when you came in here, it was better than 6 minutes that he had on you. Did you know that?
Yeah. And then I thought Tenley or Burrell would probably pass me on the run too, but Tenley and I dropped Burrell, and then I dropped Tenley.
Did you think you had a chance when you knew you were that far on the bike?
Not at all.
Where'd you get the strength, Mark?
A mile from the turnaround. Start feeling good. I've been sick the last 3 days. I couldn't even breathe this morning.
Congratulations, a tremendous performance. How'd you catch your breath? Mark Allen with a hug from his mother there. 4-time world champion. And this man, Rob Burrell, has passed Scott Molina and will finish in 3rd place, the best European finish in history for Burrell.
Good, Rob. You know, we do a good jump together.
Tenley and Allen, how many times have these two gone head-to-head?
You nailed me on that one. I don't want to talk to that right now.
And here is Scott Molina, finishing in 4th place. A beaten man, but a brave one. Took it out so hard on the bike, tried to hang on, but the race was just too much for him. The final standings, Mark Allen unbeatable for the 4th year in a row. Tenley, Burrell, and Scott Molina. For Erin Baker here at the World Triathlon Championships in Nice, and she will win her first world title. She wanted to beat all the top American women. She did so today and decimated the field. So as we leave you from the beautiful French Riviera here, I'm John Tesh for Eric Heiden, John Neighbor, and Craig Masbach saying so long.